first structure we're looking at in the Hellenistic is going to be the Temple of Apollo at Didyma. And this is built to replace an archaic temple, which was burned by the Persians in about 494. This is during the Ionian Revolt, that ultimately leads to the Persian attack on Marathon and then the Persian invasion in 480. Construction begins in 313, just after Alexander the Great, although work continues for about 500 years and it's never actually completed. It does have the same basic proportions as the Parthenon, although nothing else in it is classical, and you can see that from the form. So along the outside, we have our typical colonnade, and here's our typical entrance. But what would be the cella is actually a sunken courtyard, and then we have a smaller spring and cella inside of it. So it's a very unusual form. There is no pediment on the structure. There is no roof in the center. We have that courtyard. The entrance to the cella is elevated, so it could not actually, as such, be entered, which is kind of tricky, but it creates a stage for the Oracle of Apollo, who would be in that center area, in that cella. We have two smaller doors on either side that would allow entrance. So the main entrance here, as you come in, is going to be elevated, and then there's two smaller entrances down a staircase to the side that allow access into the courtyard. And this opened to this massive courtyard. So here we see recreation of the entrance. But it would have opened to a courtyard containing a sacred spring and laurel tree, as we see here. Opposite the inner temple, we see a 50-foot stairway, which led to the oracle's room that also opened to the front of the temple, which is going to be back here. So here's the small cella we saw. The entrance would be back here. We see the two staircases. And then in the middle is that oracle's temple, where the oracle would stand on that 5-foot elevated doorway, making their pronouncements. This very complex spatial planning is a sharp departure from the classical. The classical, of course, focusing on the exterior, leaving the interior largely underdeveloped. Whereas here, what we see is a very developed interior with the exterior left largely simplified and underdeveloped. No frieze, no metopes, no pediments. And this is the Persian influence coming in. They aren't seeing the same importance in these depictions. Plus, the role of these Greek gods, the stories, and everything else are new to the area. And we have an area that's shifting and changing constantly. This is the same area that's going to be constantly at war between the Romans and the Persians, the Greeks, and the Hellenic or Hellenistic kingdoms. All of this leads to some very unique, very novel ideas.